Welcome to Margin Business Digital Entrepreneur Podcast. In today's episode, we got Ben Leonard. Ben is an e-commerce consultant, an entrepreneur, and a speaker. He has an impressive resume. He was the founder of Beast Gear and is now the co-founder of Ecom Brokers. Ecom Brokers is the e-commerce brokerage by e-commerce people. Welcome, Ben. One more thing. Please hit the subscribe button and give us a thumbs up if you like our content. Thank you and enjoy. Thank you so much, Ben, that you made it today. I'm very honored to have you here on the show. Tell us a little bit about yourself. I mean, where did you start? Where did your journey start from childhood? And afterwards we will just work ourselves up to the later years and to your professional career as well. And where are you located at the moment, by the way?
Yeah, thanks, Omar. Well, thanks for having me. I'm in Northeast Scotland, and I grew up here. I'm in a little town by the sea called Stonehaven, and it's about 20 miles south of Aberdeen, which is the third biggest city in Scotland, but for most people in the world, they would consider it a small town. We've got about 150,000 people.
Okay.
And it proudly calls itself the oil capital of Europe, the oil industry capital of Europe. And that is what brought my family here in the 80s. My parents moved up here from the south of England for my dad to work in the oil industry in the early 80s. And I was then they actually moved back to England again, and I was born. But anyway, I was raised up here in the northeast of Scotland, and where everyone works in this one industry. I'm sure lots of people listening will have similar stories where their particular region or town or city is known for a particular industry. And growing up in Scotland, it's a lovely place to be. And I grew up in a small town just outside Aberdeen. We have a beautiful coastline, so fantastic water sports. I used to go sailing a lot, but we're close to the mountains. You can go skiing. There's wonderful countryside. And so all of that made it pretty clear straight from the outset that I was going to be interested in nature and wildlife and conservation.
Okay.
And I had no interest in business. Which is why I went to university to study zoology.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, and I was a real nerd for whales and dolphins. I still am. I love them. Right? They're fascinating creatures. And so my final year of my undergraduate degree, I specialized in. I was studying a population of dolphins in the north of Scotland, and then I went away. I took a gap year. I went and studied a dolphin population in the Mediterranean. And I went back to university and did a master's degree in ecology and environmental sustainability. And on both of those, I studied in Aberdeen. So that's got nothing to do with e-commerce. So how did I end up there? Well, I started working like everyone in the oil and gas industry. My job was on the environmental side. My job was to make sure and to help the oil companies stick to the environmental regulations.
Okay.
And also to help the environmental regulator make stricter regulations.
Offshore or onshore?
Mostly offshore. Offshore.
Wow. Okay. Okay.
And I enjoyed it. It was a good job. It was had lots of interesting things going on. It was quite funny to be the token kind of green guy in the room telling engineers that they have to stick to the rules. But in early 2016, I became quite ill with a heart problem.
Wow.
I'm absolutely fine now.
Precondition, or was it just came along like this?
Well, it was the third time that I'd had it. It was called pericarditis. And if people want to Google that, basically it's inflammation of the pericardium, which is the little bag that your heart sits in.
Okay.
And it's actually reasonably common in men in their 20s and 30s. And they don't know quite what causes it. Sometimes it can be a virus. Sometimes it can be stress. Usually you get it, they give you some drugs and it goes away and you never get it again. but I got it 3 times. And the third time they said, well, we really, really need to make sure we get rid of it this time, because otherwise it can become chronic and life-changing.
Okay.
So they gave me a cocktail of drugs and said, stop doing all your fitness activities for 9 months. So no more boxing, no more CrossFit, no more running, no more lifting heavy weights, no more scuba diving. I liked to do that as well. And so I was feeling quite down about this, I couldn't do any of my interests anymore, any of my hobbies, at least until I was recovered, and I had no guarantees that I was going to recover. And so my girlfriend, who's now my wife, she was studying at the time. And so she was super busy, and she encouraged me to take on a project to keep me busy, occupy my mind. But also I wanted it to keep me in touch with my passions and my hobbies. And therefore, I started a brand of fitness equipment. A few years previously, so before I got ill, I remember I'd been training at CrossFit, which, for anyone who doesn't know what CrossFit is, it's like circuit training on steroids. It's very intense. And it's group training, so it's quite fun because you're in with a group of people. And at the end of the class, somebody said, "Oh, we beasted it today." And I remember thinking, "Oh, we beasted it, beast gear. That would be a cool name for a fitness brand." And then I forgot all about it. But 2 years later, I'm very ill. I can't train. I'm sadly tidying out my bag with all my gym gear, looking at all this fitness equipment that I'm not using and not training with. And I thought, I could do a better job of that. And so I had my light bulb moment. I remembered the idea that I'd had a couple of years ago of a cool name for a fitness brand would be Beast Gear. And so early 2016, I started my project that I needed to keep me occupied. And this project was to develop a brand of fitness equipment, and it was called Beast Gear. And it turned out I was quite good at that. I grew that brand over 3.5 years to mid-7 figures revenue, and I sold it at the end of 2019. Many of the listeners will probably be aware of an organization called Thrasio, which has really disrupted the e-commerce industry. My business was their second, I think, European acquisition back in late 2019.
Oh, that's amazing.
So I quit my job. I stopped being an environmental advisor in 2018, not because I didn't enjoy it, but this new entrepreneurship passion had been sparked in me, which I never knew I had. And I was loving it. I needed to go full-time on the business because it was growing like crazy, and it was not sustainable to do this just in the weekends and the evenings anymore. And I decided to take a chance. So I went full-time in the business. I kept growing it. Late 2019, I sold it. And now I guess I'm doing 3 things, I suppose. I'm still building brands. Because I love it. I love it. B, I've learned now for the first brand, I started it as a hobby. I had no idea it was supposed to just earn me some pocket money, be a bit of fun maybe. I didn't know it would grow into a multi-million-pound business that I would sell. But now I know how to build a brand and turn it into a valuable asset and then sell it. And so now I build brands to sell them. And I consult with e-commerce business owners to help them. I feel like there's a lot of so-called gurus in this space who don't really know what they're talking about. They know how to make a course and sell it for a lot of money, but they don't really have experience. So I try to be the antidote to that. And then the third thing is based off the experience of selling my business. Together with my accountant, who was really important in doing that, we created an e-commerce brokerage to help other people sell their businesses, or preferably plan to sell their businesses in the right way, and then do it. So that was the journey. That's me.
That's already amazing. There is so many information. Now I need to break it down. Because
Go for
that's
it.
that's a lot. I didn't expect actually a zoologist. This is something. Wow. Okay. Maybe I'm right, but the most famous zoologist is the guy from Utah. I think I forgot his name.
The guy from Utah.
Yes.
Hold on. I'm Googling him now.
Yeah.
Utah zoologist.
Coyote Peterson. Coyote Peterson.
Oh yeah. I gotta say though, yeah, not so much a not for any negative reason, but not so much a one of the zoologists that I looked up to.
Yeah.
I'm like so many people in the UK. I grew up watching David Attenborough.
Okay.
I love the guy.
Is it the one who's always in the jungle and survival training in there? And I mean, I think I've seen quite a few series of him.
So he's still going. He must be about almost 100 years old now. How old is he? He's 95. I've just Googled him. David Attenborough. He's 95. I grew up watching his wildlife documentaries, and it was a combination of that and just living in the part of the world where I live, where we have lots of great access to the outdoors.
Yes.
It got me interested in nature and conservation. And I think all kids like animals, don't they?
Yes,
but
definitely.
I took it like the next step. It wasn't just that I liked animals, but it was that I was interested in understanding the environment and the systems and how they work, which is what led me to study ecology. And I wanted to understand, how can we conserve these? And I still have a passion for that. I'm still interested in nature conservation. And I think I was chatting with someone the other day about that. And they said, well, if you're so interested in that, why are you doing this e-commerce entrepreneurship thing? And I said, well, I've discovered this entrepreneurial spark and I need to let that flame burn.
Exactly.
And then I want to go back to conservation, not so much in a professional capacity, as what I was doing before, but more taking the skills I've learned in business and seeing, well, how can I help conservation organizations and charities, etc., to be a bit more entrepreneurial in getting stuff done. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. So the thing is as well, when you so engage and when you're so passionate about something like zoology or animals, wildlife animals, at some point when you go full-time or you don't work for anybody, you have to have your own organization, or you have to be a part of an organization. So from my point is as well, okay, you have a passion for entrepreneurship, which comes in handy at the same time, because obviously if you go full-time back into zoology or into studying wildlife animals, you have to have some sponsoring, because if you don't work for somebody, there has to be some sponsoring going on, some money coming in order to continuously, be able to study the wildlife. Correct or not?
Yeah. So, I mean, I worked in industry, I was employed by a profit-making company. It was a consultancy. So we provided our, ecological expertise in that industry, I suppose. But yeah, definitely on the other side of the coin, the majority of the good work being done in nature conservation and environmental causes is by NGOs and charities, and they certainly need money. That's for sure. There's not a great, if you want to work in that field, you're not doing it because you want money, right? You're doing it because you care. And equally, I didn't get into business for money because I never thought I would really make any money. I got into business for a project. The happy side effect is now I've learned how to build a valuable asset and then sell it. And sure, there's money in that, but I don't really see money as, some people are obsessed by money.
Yes.
But I'm more interested in, what does money let you do? Well, money allows you to be more free, exactly. Have more freedom of time, to do what you want, but more specifically when you want, and have more freedom to do the things that matter to you. And I feel like entrepreneurship has allowed me to do that, because now I have more free time to do things that interest me. But I know that over the long-term plan, assuming I don't get hit by a bus tomorrow, I'm going to do the entrepreneurial thing for the next probably decade, and then consider my next move in terms of having a more meaningful impact from my original passion, which is the environment.
Okay. I mean, the environment in general, speaking of Scotland especially, if my information are not wrong, the Highlands is part of Scotland.
That's right. Yeah,
right?
We have the Scottish Highlands. Yeah.
Okay. So there comes my my movie, thing is the Highlander, So I'm really fan of this movie, I mean, I'm sure you know it, yeah?
Sean Connery, right?
Yes, exactly, Sean Connery.
Yeah.
It's an amazing movie, and let's put the whole thing, the whole magical side, apart, and just look at the pictures what are shown in the actual movie, the old castles, the nature, the original Highlands. It was amazing. I was always amazed by this, and it's funny because now I got you talking to you, and you tell me you're from Scotland and the Highlands, and I've never been able to go there, which is as well one of my goals. But this is really something which is fascinating. This type of nature is very wild. Can be cold, can be cruel because it's very rainy. It can be sunny. It's super upside down, so it's something which is very intriguing,
It's a fascinating situation we have here, actually, Omar, because we do have some absolutely beautiful places in the Highlands. But what a lot of people don't know is that a huge area of Scotland, people think it looks like a wonderful, idyllic, natural landscape. But a huge area of it is actually artificial, because most of Scotland used to be covered in Caledonian pine forest. And we still have some fantastic, pristine Caledonian pine forest. But most of Scotland, they've got rid of the pine forest. And now we just have mountains and hills covered in heather. And the heather is there because it's owned by landowners who stop trees from growing. Every year they burn the heather in order to kill the old heather and encourage the growth of new heather. Why do they want to do that? They want to do that because the young shoots of the new heather are very tasty for a type of bird called the grouse. But the grouse is basically a chicken, effectively, right? It's a game bird, okay? So they keep grouse in very, very high unnatural densities in this landscape of heather with no trees. And the reason they do that is because rich people come to shoot the grouse. It's a sport. They shoot grouse.
So
we have this.
I need to Google this type of animal, so I know.
Grouse, yeah, Grouse. So we have this sport called grouse shooting, and I have no problem with like somebody shooting a grouse. I'm not a vegan or whatever. I eat meat. I eat birds, but the problem I have with it is that the environmental impact of managing the land like that is extremely negative. And we could go on a whole topic about that, but this is a business podcast. But that's kind of the funny thing is people look at that landscape and they say, oh, isn't Scotland beautiful? And I'm like, well, it kind of is, but it's very artificial. And if only we would regrow our original Caledonian pine forest, it would be much, much better. The good news is that some organizations are trying to do that. And I promise I'm going to come back to a business point here, right? There is a beer company from my hometown called Brewdog. You may have heard of them, Brewdog.
Not really.
They're worth billions now. Google them as well. And I mentioned before that environmental charities don't have much money. But the guys who own BrewDog, they care about the environment. They are the first beer company in the world to, they're not carbon neutral, they're carbon negative.
Okay.
And they have just bought a huge area of land in Scotland. And guess what? That area of land is all heather because the pine forest has disappeared.
Okay.
So these guys who own BrewDog, what are they going to do? They're going to regrow the forest.
Okay.
So they are using entrepreneurship and business to do good in the world.
That's
and to actually get something done. One of the things I noticed when I was studying zoology and ecology at university, I did some experience with some environmental charities.
Mm-hmm.
And they were full of great people who cared a lot about the environment. But the problem was that they were all academics and none of them really got anything done.
Yeah.
They didn't get stuff done. Whereas as entrepreneurs, we have this let's do it attitude. We get stuff done. And so BrewDog is getting stuff done.
Okay.
There's another guy, he's Danish, a Danish billionaire called Anders Povelsen.
Okay.
He made his money in clothes, fashion. And he has also bought huge areas of land in Scotland. And he wants to rewild it. He wants to bring back the bear, the wolf, the lynx. We don't have any of those anymore. We killed them all.
Nothing anymore.
No, the last wolf died in Scotland in about 1790.
Okay.
We shot them all. Bears, the same. Lynx, the same. We killed everything because of human greed. And so these guys, they've made their money, they've learned business, and now they want to get stuff done. And billionaires get a bad rap. And I'm not saying anybody needs to be a billionaire. Nobody needs to be that wealthy. But sometimes what you do need is somebody with big visions and big ideas and a lot of money to get stuff done.
Sure.
And I'm not saying I'm gonna be a billionaire. I don't have any ambition to be a billionaire. But I am saying that letting this kind of entrepreneurial spark that I've discovered burn and allowing myself to do that and then build up more knowledge and experience and understanding of how to get things done will mean that one day in, 8, 9, 10 years, when I decide to go back into the conservation world, I will be better set up to get stuff done.
Sure. I think that's a great way to see it. And as well, the time frame is perfect to jump into it, because there will be more powers working on there that it comes back as the nature has been before. Can I ask you something, because I haven't Googled yet, but the time frame, this burning happening, how long we look back? 200 years, 300 years, or is this something from the new times?
Probably about, I couldn't tell you straight off, probably about the last 100 or so years.
Okay, because
so it's in terms of the lifespan of the forest, it's very, very new, right? It's
yes, sure.
new.
That's what I want to know. But that it's I'm very like, wow, it's, how is that possible, that how many of these gooses they need to shoot? I mean, and to eat.
Oh,
and
yeah.
This must be. Do you have tourists flying in as well who are doing that?
Yeah, it's huge industry. So people come from the big cities. So Glasgow, Edinburgh, London.
Okay.
It's like it's a corporate thing. So often businesses will pay to send their team to go grouse shooting. But Americans love to come to Scotland to go shooting.
Okay.
It's a big thing.
Okay. So I understand. One more question for the. You mentioned the heart condition.
Oh yeah.
Because I'm training a lot, and even in my 20s, I trained even harder. Everything with gym, in the gym, or most of the time, cardio, boxing, kickboxing.
Cool.
And when I was sick, or, just with the flu or something, when I went to the doctor, or even my trainer told me, listen, don't train. like me, if you're continuously training, a little flu won't stop you from going jogging or
Yeah.
doing some shadow boxing or something. So it's there where I have been told that if you do that, and if there is afterwards complications, or if you, for example, are under fever and the whole inflammation, like you describe it, goes into your body and touches your heart, this is exactly what is going to happen. So I was told this by the doctors, and now I hear this condition from you, because I thought always blah blah, they don't exist. You know what I mean? I never heard of this, and
Yeah.
now I hear you saying this. So I'm like, wow, okay.
Yeah. So what the pericarditis that I had, it can be caused by a virus or stress or both. They don't really know.
Okay.
And it's I'm absolutely fine now, and I train now a lot. But I have a new rule for training. If I'm not feeling well, so say I have a cold or the flu or whatever, and here's the rule: if I can only feel it in from the neck above, if I can only feel it in my head, right? Maybe I have a blocked nose, but I'm not coughing, I don't feel it in my chest, then I will train, but at a low intensity. I
Okay.
just need to move, right?
Very
I
good.
just need to move. But if I feel it in my chest, I won't train.
Yeah. I mean, now with the years, I do the same, but before, obviously, I didn't care, but now
Yeah, me too.
I'm much more conscious and much more aware that, and the body is as well a little bit more, it changes, so you understand more what you can do, what you can't do, and what you should do and what you shouldn't do. So I'm
Completely.
not anymore crazy about this, but it's very eye-opening for me, because I never had anybody who was around me or that I knew or spoke to who had this condition, whatever might have caused it. But if we say it caused maybe overtraining, this is how it looks like then, so yeah, it's very eye-opening for me, and I'm happy that that everything is fine now and that you're good to train, because this is the worst for somebody who's training his whole life and then cannot train anymore. This is very, very frustrating.
Yeah,
So,
100%. It's really annoying.
going from there, actually, when I see what you were talking about the sports and all the ambitions you had, and then you jump into a brand which has to do with sports as well, is a super good connector, because you know your audience, because it's yourself, you're your best client, if you see it from this way. So that means you had the best starting point to bring out a story, because the story is yourself, to bring out everything that you wanted to sell on Amazon, or even maybe on Shopify, or anywhere else. You standing behind your brand, you are the one. It's not that it's some like people have some fake stuff. It's just not, you just don't want to sell, like you said, you want to make money. No, it's really
Yeah,
something came out of your passion, and you brought
100%.
it into the market. And we don't have so much people who are doing this, because most of the people, is have the drop shipping, the Amazon, buy from Alibaba, sell on Alibaba. Why are you doing that? Yeah, whatever, so this whole concept behind it, I think it's just a perfect fit. And it's really important for me to make this really clear to everyone, because this is actually how you do it, out of passion and out of natural instinct, to create a brand. And if possible, like you did it, you sell it, so it's
Yeah.
it's the
I,
perfect story,
I completely agree, Omar, because back when third-party selling on Amazon, for example, became big, 2014, 15,
Yeah.
16, the idea was just find a product and sell it to make some money. And that could be anything. And people were ended up just selling random stuff. And that kind of worked for a time. But when you're doing that, you're not building an asset with any value that you can sell. Because really, the only way to make big money in e-commerce is to build a brand and then sell it. And ideally, it needs to be a brand that you're passionate about, something that is going to get you out of bed in the morning, that you're going to feel some energy to actually work on the business. And not only that, But when you're building your brand needs to be positioned so that it is an authority on the topic. You need to know what you're talking about. So if you're trying to launch a brand of knitting accessories and you have no interest in knitting, you're not going to be able to position the brand, and maybe even yourself, if you are the face of the brand, as an authority on that topic. So it needs to be something you're interested in. The other happy side effect of that is if it's something you're passionate about, then because you are your customer, you understand your customer. And when you are building your brand needs to be your brand avatar, if we want to call it that, needs to be a reflection of your customer avatar. And your customer avatar isn't necessarily who your customer is, but it's who your customer aspires to be. Your brand needs to show people how their future could look if they bought your products or products to improve their life and solve their problem. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes complete sense. Yeah.
And so when you do that, so if you are passionate about knitting and you create a brand about knitting, and it's a suite of products which solve related problems for people who like knitting, and you position yourself and the brand as an authority on that topic, then that brand has value. Whereas just an Amazon account selling a variety of stuff doesn't really have a lot of value other than the income it's generating.
Yes.
But when you've created a strong brand that becomes a thought leader on that topic with lots of raving fans, somebody will be very willing not only to pay you for, in a purely financial sense, the value in terms of what is the profit of that, how profitable is that business, but also all the assets associated with the brand. So the following, the email list, your Instagram, your TikTok, how many fans have you got on Facebook? All of that stuff associated with the following that you've built for your brand adds value. And really, the way I see this is now the way to make money in e-commerce is not to just build a machine that makes income selling stuff, but build a brand that you can sell. And now that is what I'm doing. I'm building brands to sell them, and I'm helping other people get ready to sell their brand, whether that's, now in 3 months' time or in 2 years' time. That's the way to do it now.
Yes, I completely agree, because 2014 obviously was another time. For example, if you have been in 2014 and you had already the idea to build a brand, and then put it on Amazon, that's a different game, But most of the people, what they did is just to buy randomly and to sell. And the ones who went big in this actually knew how to scale, or maybe not knew how to scale. They got in there by accident, and today are multi-million dollar companies which selling anything because they have the cash flow.
Yes,
because they can.
There are exceptions who have done that. That's true.
Yes. So this is the Amazon business in general. Like people see it, it's not so easy how it's always presented. To do a course, let's choose a product together from Korea or from China, and then let's go put a label on it. Let's take it to work. I don't. It's too easy. It's like when somebody telling you, listen, buy this stock. I will teach you how to do it. It's not so easy anymore. I mean, it was easy before, but it's not now. And I don't think that it's meaningful as well. So if you put all the aspects together and you have the meaningful and your passion together, you create a brand. You can create whatever is out there, whatever is your passion. You can go, for example, yours as sports. You said knitting. If you love football, you can do shin protections.
Completely.
It's the whole, and afterwards you can market it on the whole channels. Even put some videos of yourself. Everything is in there, which against normal brands what you buy, for example, and then sell it, there is no connection for you, So
yeah, absolutely right. And you mentioned selling it. A lot of people now are beginning to understand that the brand that they have built does have value and they could sell it. but the worst thing you could possibly do is just wake up tomorrow and say, I want to sell my business.
Yeah.
What you need to do is wake up tomorrow and say, I want to make a plan to sell my business.
Yes.
And it could be that that plan is very short and you're able to sell your business very soon, and that's great. Or it could be that you want to sell your business later because A, it's not ready for sale yet, no one's going to buy it, or B, you want more money. And either of those is fine, but the worst thing somebody can do is just say, oh, I'm going to sell my business, because you're going to end up not selling it for what it's worth, because you're going to be too hasty to try and just get it sold. Yeah. You need to make a plan. And I often tell people often say to me, but I don't think I'm going to want to sell my business. And I say, well, I think one day you will, because you're probably not going to be doing this until you retire. And if you think about this, how much money, you need to ask yourself the question, how much money am I taking out of the business? How much money am I paying myself every year? And then when you find out what your business is worth, you divide that value of your business by how much money you're taking out every year. And that's how many years you're going to have to work to get the same money you could take off the table now for selling your business. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So something, a reference point I like to make is that even if you don't think you want to sell your business, it's really worthwhile to find out what it's worth.
Sure.
Because then you have a reference point. Otherwise, you're stumbling around in the dark with no lights on, or you're trekking through the jungle with no map. But if you find out, okay, great, my business is worth, I don't know, $500,000 or pounds, it doesn't matter. Okay. My business is worth $500,000, but I don't want to sell it for less than $1 million. That's fine. But now you know, and you can start reverse engineering that $1 million exit and think about what are the steps that you need to do, stack them up like dominoes, and then start knocking them down. And you can do that on your own, or you can work with somebody to do that.
Okay. I mean, it's interesting because you did it yourself. How did you approach it? For example, when you build your brand, obviously you attach to it. There's some emotional attachment, like you said, as beasted. There's the beast. It's mine. It's like, wow.
Yep.
I'm waking up with it. Where did your switch came and you say, okay, actually I could sell it, or because like you said, you're not in there and saying I want to sell my brand. No, it's not like this. There is some steps happening, and obviously you were not that knowledgeable at that point about selling a business. How did it get to you? How did all this this happen? If you're able to talk about that, for example.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So it was early 2019, and my wife was pregnant, and we wanted to move house, and I had just turned 30, and I became aware that buying and selling e-commerce businesses was now becoming a little bit more mainstream. Still not as mainstream as it is now, right? So much has changed in 2 years, but it was. And I realized I could take some significant money off the table. I did a very quick, rough calculation of what my business might be worth. And I divided that number by how much I was paying myself per year, and realized that to get that same amount of money, I would have to keep doing this for years.
Yeah.
And I was running around like a headless chicken, putting out fires. The growth of my business was crazy. It was the classic entrepreneurial trap. And I had two choices. I could either do the work to systemize my business more than it already was, build a bigger team, potentially create an office, or I could sell. And neither of those was going to be wrong. But for me and my family at that point in time, taking the money off the table to make us financially secure at that age and stage of our life just made sense. So then I did a few things to start getting ready. I read a book called Built to Sell. It's by a guy called John Warrillow. It's a great book.
Okay.
And it's great to read, even if you don't think you want to sell. Because when you make your business neat and tidy so that you can sell it, a great happy side effect is suddenly your business starts to scale. So I read that book, and I contacted a broker because I needed somebody to help me find somebody who was the right person to buy my business. And I contacted that broker, and I'm grateful I did, because ultimately they did introduce me to the buyer. But unfortunately, the broker, they didn't really do very much. They went into my Amazon account, they pulled out some reports, they pulled some reports from my website, and they slapped a value on the business based on what was the average multiple for selling a business at the time.
Okay.
But that was it. They didn't do very much in terms of positioning the business, getting the business ready to sell, helping me maximize the value, properly calculating the add backs or the seller's discretionary earnings. My accountant did most of that. And the broker made a huge error in the calculation and undervalued the business by about 30%. So I was able to negotiate their commission down after we found the error. But anyway, ultimately, they introduced me to the buyer. And I ended up selling to that buyer. And I'm allowed to say this because they use me in their PR, but I was the second European business that Thrasio purchased.
Okay.
And that experience led my accountant, who also has like 20 years experience in mergers and acquisitions, Allison, and we basically put our heads together and said, well, we could do a better job of brokering deals. So the journey of actually selling my business has led me to helping others sell their business with a brokerage, which is called ecom brokers. And so what's interesting about that is you've got me on the e-commerce side having the real lived experience of building and scaling and selling an e-commerce brand. I know what it's like to cry down the phone to seller support at 3 a.m. And you've got Allison, who's got decades of experience in mergers and acquisitions and e-commerce accounting. You put those two things together and we can help sellers a lot better than your standard kind of flipper brokers, because somebody might come to us and say, well, what's my business worth? Okay, I don't want to sell it for less than double that, or, less than whatever. And we'll build you a plan and work with you to mentor your route to an exit. On the other hand, somebody might want to sell now. And what's great about that is we will help to properly position and market your business to the right buyer, okay, to get you the best possible price, rather than just kind of slapping it on our website and listing it like, the eBay of businesses. Exactly. And just taking whatever we can get for it. So yeah, that was, I kind of rambled on a bit, but that was the journey of selling the business. And then the kind of happy side effect of what came out of that was creating a better brokerage.
Okay. So yeah, while you were explaining, actually, you jumped into the next topic, which is your actual business that you do right now, which is the website is
ecombrokers.co.uk.
ecombrokers.co.uk. So this is now the journey. Obviously, you know what you're talking about. You sold your business, and now you said, okay, I want to help others to not do the same mistakes that I do not do the same headaches that I had. Obviously, when you grow so fast, there's growing pains. You might do a wrong order, one container too much. You cannot. It gets stuck somewhere. You run out of stock. Amazon upset. Algorithm upset. Comes in, maybe half is missing. We all heard about that. So it's a big headache. So when you grow at a certain point, you might need to think to sell your business. And you are obviously the best point here to do that, to speak with you about it. You are Sure. You're somebody very approachable, and you really understand what is happening to small or even mid-sized entrepreneurs, how they can exit, and which mistakes they should not do. How would you say is the point here that you make against everyone else with your business, because the others are very,
how are we different, I guess is another way of putting that. There's several ways, I suppose. So first, let's talk about other brokers, and then we could talk about why you should use our broker rather than going direct. So there's two types of other broker, and then there's the third way, which is our way. So there's a group of kind of standard brokers in e-commerce, and we'll call them the flipper style brokers.
Okay.
And what they'll do is they'll download some reports from your Seller Central account, if you're selling on Amazon or whatever, wherever you're selling, whether it's your own website or eBay or whatever it is. And they will put together the numbers and settle on your seller's discretionary earnings, which is basically your net income plus add backs. And add backs are one-off costs that the buyer isn't going to have to pay for. So they get added back to the value of your business, essentially.
Okay.
And then they'll take an average of the multiples that currently are happening in the marketplace and apply that multiple to your seller's discretionary earnings and arrive at a value for your business. Then they will list it on their website, kind of like the eBay for businesses. And they'll email all the potential buyers that they know about. They have a database of buyers and say, hey, we have this business for sale. And that's it. That's all they do. They're just kind of middlemen. Okay. They don't necessarily have the lived experience of e-commerce. And their fees are pretty high. They charge quite a high commission. Then there's another model. And this model emerged recently to combat kind of like the polar opposite of these sky-high fees that the flippers do for not doing very much, which is they charge very low fees, about 4 or 5%. But their fees are so low that it would be impossible for them to make any money if they actually did anything in terms of working on your deal. So what they do is they say, oh, we'll just charge you 4 or 5% and we'll find you a buyer. And so then they just email a list of buyers. Okay. And when one of those buyers might buy your business for not a very good deal for you, they will pay that consultant a referral fee, usually say $25,000 to $50,000. So that consultant is taking 4 or 5% from you and an additional kickback from the buyer, which is, in my opinion, not cool. Okay. So, our way is we're not just a middleman. We are e-commerce experts. With me on the e-commerce side, having, built, scaled, and sold my own businesses and doing it again. And I can, if we're mentoring you to an exit, help you on everything from product development to logistics to marketing, branding, your listings, all the practical sides. And then we've got Alison on the financial sides with her experience in mergers and acquisitions of decades and the e-commerce accountancy. So we'll properly calculate your seller's discretionary earnings and properly do your add backs. So from that point of view, we'll maximize the value of your business, because when you deal direct with a buyer or you go through a broker who's not so expert in the accountancy side, you won't realize the maximum value of your business because you won't get all the add backs. So for example, here's one for free, which you won't get when you do deal direct with a buyer or a standard broker. Say you launched a product 4 months ago and the launch is over and the product is doing very well. Thank you very much. Typically your value of your business is based on the trailing 12-month performance. Yeah. But unfortunately, you only launched that product 4 months ago. Now, if you sell directly to the buyer or through a less competent broker, you're not going to realize the maximum value of your business. The buyer is going to get the benefit of that new product, but you're only getting 4 months performance contributing to the value of your business. Well, what we'll do when we properly position your business is we'll actually present a extrapolation so that the 4-month performance is back calculated and applied to the full 12 months. And we can justify that because the launch is over, the product is now ticking over nicely, and it's only right that the seller sees maximum value for that. That's just one example. There's a whole load of examples, which I'm not going to give away, which we use to maximize the value of your business. And instead of listing it on a website where anyone can come and look at it, we'll present the business to only a handful of buyers. So enough buyers that there's a competitive environment so that we can have a little bit of a bidding process. But also we only want to present it to the right buyer, because if you've got a knitting brand, we want to make sure we're selling that to a buyer who has experience in the hobby space, not somebody who only knows how to sell dog food. Yeah. Because if any part of that deal is on an earnout, you need to know that they're going to do well with your brand. And even if there is no earnout, you're going to want to pass that on to the right brand to take your baby on,
True.
right? You want to sell it to the right people. So that's kind of how we're different to the standard brokers. And then dealing direct with a buyer, a buyer will say, deal with us directly and avoid the broker fee. But what that really means is please don't work with a competent broker who will properly calculate your SDE and your ad backs. I find that as an e-commerce business owner, I spend money on product photography, on trademark experts, on PPC experts, on copywriting experts, on translation experts. So when I'm selling my business, I need to also use experts. And provided you're not using a broker who charges you a ridiculously high, unfair commission, then the fee for using a broker who will properly calculate what your business is worth, position it correctly, and find you the right buyer will pay for the fee several times over. That is essentially what we do.
I mean, from what I understand is really that you are behind this brand personally, very approachable, as already said. People can come to you, ask you personally what they think or what business they have. And I think this approach is really missing nowadays, because the companies which are selling now are very big at this point. Most what I know from, if I would search for companies, then I would have maybe contact with an account manager, somebody who is employed from the company, So it won't give me like the feeling that I give, like you said, my baby in somebody's hands, which has not really an understanding of this. And you have the understanding, you sold your brand. So I think I would feel very comfortable to talk with you about this, to sell my product, my whole brand, with your help. Let's see.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate the kind words. Yeah, that's kind of, we only deal with a handful of sellers at a time, because we want to give the sellers the full attention that they deserve. Exactly. From myself and from Allison. So that makes us a little bit different as well. I suppose you could, I don't like using this word, but if we had to call it something, you could call it more boutique, okay. Right? Because we deliberately deal with a small number at a time in order to give everybody the best possible experience and get them the best possible outcome, rather than you just being a small cog in a massive machine.
Exactly. And this is as well what for me is important, the approach to the customer, and because it's for this, we all do this to help and to create something new out of it, the motivational side. And there we come as well to the point. What I wanted you to ask you is, what does motivate you every morning to get out of bed or to begin your day? What is your main motivation?
Mine?
Yes.
Well, it depends on what project I'm working. My main motivation in terms of e-com brokers is to help with the benefit of my experience. I just want to help people and share in their success. And I don't, I've spoken with a lot of potential clients, and when you speak with them, some of them come with you and some of them don't. And even those that don't, I find out that they sold their business, and I'm pleased for them. I'm a little bit sad that they didn't get the best possible deal, because they went direct and they didn't come with us. But I'm glad that they were able to sell their business. So, but the moment, what motivates me is sharing in others' success. It's a fantastic industry to be in, and so many people get started in e-commerce because they think they can just kind of make a quick buck selling stuff. But people are now realizing that they can make huge bucks if they put in the time and effort to build their business to sell it. And that motivates me to help them do that.
Okay. Like you said, it's not just a few, it's quite demanding, to build the business. But if you have the passion behind it, and you are a sportsman and you love what you do, you can sell even kettlebells with your logo on it. It's just how what you do and how you do it. in general, it's the beauty of this business, because you can almost do almost everything if you really stand behind it.
Yeah, 100%. It's all about how you position it. Position your brand so that it's an authority on the topic and get people to know and like and trust you. And, that's half the battle. And then the sales will come.
Sure. What would be, because there's a lot of entrepreneurs out there at this time, especially now with the COVID, we have a lot of ups and downs, and many people want to go into the e-com space, be it cryptocurrency or be it Amazon. I know this is two complete different scenarios, but it's all virtual, it's online. In general, what would be your message to somebody who really wants to go full-time online, wants to break free from the world, which is quite broken at the moment because of the offs and ons and job loss, and what would be the message to them?
The message would be just start. Stop. Don't procrastinate. Just get going. Richard Branson sold tickets for his first Virgin Atlantic airline flight before he even had a plane. He sold the tickets, then he panicked and said, "Oh, I don't have a plane." So then he leased a plane. Okay. I'm not saying you're going to be Richard Branson, but I am saying just start. Having said that, don't quit your job straight away, right? Keep your job. You need your job until your business is at such a point that it can afford to pay you. But don't procrastinate anymore. Start, because even if it doesn't work, that's going to be a great learning process and a lot cheaper than paying to go to business school.
Definitely. It's that's a great message as well, because it's exactly how I feel, and what I always trying to make people understand, to just go and start something, just do it, Yeah,
100%.
It's been a great time talking with you about all of these topics, and really we only scratched the surface of these. I would have gone a lot deeper on the zoology side, on the as well on your home country, Scotland, the Highlands. Maybe at some later point we can go a little bit deeper on there, because I'm fascinated by nature as well.
Happy to talk anytime.
Okay, let's do that.
Cool.
Let's do that.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much, Ben. Then
Cheers, Omar.
see you soon, yeah?
100%. Let's do it.
Great. Bye-bye.